There are places in this world that history almost forgot. Entire cities buried beneath deserts, royal palaces swallowed by sand, ancient temples hidden inside mountains, and fortresses that once guarded empires no longer remembered. For centuries, these places disappeared from the world, not because they were destroyed, but because time simply covered them. Now, archaeologists are bringing them back to light. With every excavation, another forgotten kingdom, another lost civilization, and another piece of human history quietly returns. If you enjoy discovering the hidden side of our past, subscribe and join us on this journey. And before we begin, let us know where you're watching from and what time it is where you are right now. Tonight, we're exploring some of the most remarkable archaeological sites ever uncovered. Places that prove history still has countless secrets waiting beneath the earth. The coral city of Songo Manara, off the southern coast of Tanzania, where the turquoise waters of the Indian Ocean meet quiet mangrove forests. The ruins of an ancient city rise from a small coral island. Stone houses stand roofless beneath the tropical sun. Mosques overlook silent courtyards. Narrow streets weave between weathered walls. Trees now grow where merchants once gathered. The ocean still surrounds the city, just as it did more than 600 years ago. Yet the voices that once filled these streets have long since disappeared. This is Songo Manara, a remarkably preserved Swahili trading city, where archaeology is revealing the story of one of Africa's greatest forgotten civilizations. Songo Manara lies on a small island within the Kilwa archipelago, just a short distance from the famous port of Kilwa Kisiwani. During the 14th and 15th centuries, this coastline formed one of the most prosperous regions of the Swahili coast. Merchant ships regularly crossed the Indian Ocean, connecting East Africa with Arabia, Persia, India, and even China, far from being isolated. Songo Manara stood at the center of an international trading network that stretched across thousands of kilometers. The city was founded during the late 14th century, at a time when Swahili civilization was flourishing. Its builders constructed homes, public squares, mosques, and defensive walls using blocks of fossilized coral quarried directly from the surrounding reefs. Unlike ordinary stone, coral could be cut while still soft. After exposure to the air, it gradually hardened into a remarkably durable building material. This simple technique allowed entire cities to rise from the sea itself. As archaeologists explored the settlement, they uncovered more than 40 large coral stone houses spread across the island. Each home was carefully planned. Rooms surrounded shaded courtyards. Storerooms protected valuable goods. Reception areas welcomed visitors. Some houses even contained decorative niches carved into the walls. These were not simple shelters. They reflected wealth, sophisticated architecture, and an urban lifestyle shaped by international trade. Several mosques stood at the heart of the city. Their prayer halls were built with finely cut coral blocks. Mihrabs pointed worshippers toward Mecca. Courtyards provided space for community gatherings. Religion shaped daily life throughout Songo Manara. The rhythm of commerce was accompanied by the rhythm of prayer. Faith and trade developed side by side, creating a culture that was both deeply spiritual and remarkably cosmopolitan. Excavations have uncovered thousands of artifacts revealing the city's global connections. Chinese porcelain, Persian glazed pottery, glass beads from India, copper coins, iron tools, jewelry, animal bones, and beautifully crafted local ceramics have all emerged from beneath the coral sand. These discoveries demonstrate that Songo Manara was not a remote settlement, but part of one of the busiest maritime trading systems of the medieval world. One of the most fascinating discoveries has been the evidence for ordinary daily life. Rather than focusing only on rulers or wealthy merchants, archaeologists have studied kitchens, courtyards, refuse pits, and domestic floors, fragments of cooking pots, fish bones, shellfish remains, grinding stones, and household objects reveal how families lived, cooked, worked, and raised children within the city. History here belongs not only to kings, but to entire communities. The city's layout also reflects careful urban planning. Wide open spaces separated important buildings. Streets connected residential districts with religious centers. Public plazas provided places for trade and conversation. Stone walls enclosed different neighborhoods, rather than growing randomly over time. Songo Manara appears to have been carefully organized from the beginning. Its builders created a city designed for both commerce and community. One mystery continues to intrigue archaeologists. Despite its prosperity, Songo Manara was occupied for only a relatively short period. By the early 16th century, much of the settlement had been abandoned. Trade patterns shifted. Political power changed. Portuguese expansion disrupted long-established commercial networks throughout the Indian Ocean. Exactly how these events affected the city's decline remains a subject of ongoing research. The reasons may never be fully understood. Modern archaeology has transformed our understanding of the site. Researchers use drone mapping, ground surveys, excavation, and microscopic soil analysis to reconstruct everyday life. Rather than excavating only monumental buildings, they carefully examine tiny traces of charcoal, seeds, animal remains, and discarded objects. These small discoveries often reveal far more about the city's inhabitants than its impressive walls alone. Every layer of soil preserves another forgotten chapter. Standing among the coral ruins today, the air is filled with the sound of the ocean. Palm trees sway above weathered walls. The streets remain quiet. The merchant ships are gone. The marketplaces have fallen silent. Yet the city still feels alive. Its coral buildings continue standing where medieval builders placed them centuries ago, quietly overlooking the same sea that once carried traders from across the known world. The coral city of Songo Manara reminds us that some of history's greatest civilizations flourished far beyond the empires most people remember. Along the East African coast, communities built beautiful cities, connected continents through trade, and created a culture whose influence reached across the Indian Ocean. Today, its coral walls continue preserving the remarkable story of a civilization that history nearly allowed the sea to reclaim. The Minoan Temple of Barakish, known in antiquity as Yathil, was one of the principal cities of the Minoan kingdom. Beginning around the 1st millennium BC, the Minoans became some of southern Arabia's greatest merchants. Their caravans crossed vast deserts carrying valuable goods toward the Mediterranean and Mesopotamia. Frankincense, myrrh, spices, perfumes, and precious resins traveled along these routes, transforming isolated desert settlements into prosperous cities. Barakish became one of the kingdom's most important centers. Unlike many ancient cities built beside rivers, Barakish flourished because of trade. Its location placed it directly along the famous incense route, a network of caravan roads linking southern Arabia with Egypt, the Levant, and beyond. Every caravan passing through the region brought wealth. Merchants rested inside the city's walls, animals were supplied with water. Goods changed hands, languages mixed in the marketplaces. The city became a crossroads connecting distant civilizations. At the center of Barakish stood its greatest sanctuary, the temple dedicated to the moon god Athtar and other important deities of the Minoan kingdom. Religion played a central role in every aspect of civic life. Kings offered sacrifices before military campaigns. Merchants prayed for safe journeys. Pilgrims traveled across the desert to visit the sacred sanctuary. The temple became both the spiritual and political heart of the city. Constructed from beautifully cut limestone blocks, the temple reflected the remarkable craftsmanship of South Arabian builders. Rows of elegant columns supported its entrance. Stone courtyards welcomed worshippers. Altars occupied the sacred interior. Walls were decorated with carefully carved inscriptions recording offerings, royal dedications, and religious ceremonies. Even today, many of these inscriptions remain surprisingly well preserved, as archaeologists carefully excavated the temple, layer by layer. The history of Barakish slowly emerged. Collapsed columns revealed their original foundations. Broken sculptures appeared beneath centuries of sand. Fragments of incense burners, stone altars, ceramic vessels, bronze objects, and carved architectural elements gradually returned to the light. Every excavation season added another chapter to the story of the Minoan civilization. One of the site's greatest treasures is its remarkable collection of inscriptions. Unlike many ancient monuments where written records are scarce, Barakish preserves hundreds of texts carved directly into stone. These inscriptions record the names of rulers, religious dedications, commercial activities, and construction projects. Together, they provide archaeologists with one of the richest sources of information about ancient South Arabian society. The stones still speak in the language of their builders. The city itself was protected by enormous defensive walls, stretching for more than a kilometer. These fortifications enclosed homes, markets, administrative buildings, and the temple complex. More than 50 towers strengthened the city's defenses. Approaching caravans would have first seen these impressive walls rising above the desert. They announced both the wealth and security of one of Arabia's greatest trading centers. Life inside Barakish revolved around both commerce and religion. Merchants arriving from distant kingdoms brought far more than goods. They introduced new ideas, foreign customs, and distant cultures. The marketplaces echoed with many languages. Religious festivals brought together people from across the region. The temple stood at the center of this vibrant community, watching over generations whose fortunes depended upon the caravan trade. Eventually, the prosperity of the Minian kingdom began to decline. Trade routes shifted. New powers emerged across Arabia. Political influence gradually passed to neighboring kingdoms, including the Sabaeans. Although Marrakesh continued to be occupied for centuries, its importance slowly diminished. The once crowded streets became quieter. The temple received fewer visitors. The desert gradually reclaimed the city. Modern archaeological work has revealed just how sophisticated Marrakesh truly was. Careful surveys map its defensive walls. Excavations uncover new sections of the temple. Conservation teams preserve fragile inscriptions carved more than 2,000 years ago. Digital technologies record every architectural detail before time can erase it, despite decades of research. Much of the ancient city still remains buried beneath the sand. Its greatest discoveries may yet lie hidden. Standing within the temple today, the silence feels profound. The desert wind moves gently through the ancient columns. The scent of incense has long faded. The caravans have disappeared beyond history. Yet the sanctuary remains. Its stones still overlook the same trade routes that once connected Arabia to the ancient world. Every carved inscription, every weathered column, and every fallen altar preserves the memory of a civilization that transformed the desert into a center of commerce and faith. The Minian Temple of Marrakesh reminds us that some of history's greatest civilizations flourished not beside mighty rivers, but along the harsh caravan roads of Arabia, hidden beneath desert sands. Its remarkable sanctuary continues revealing the story of merchants, pilgrims, kings, and craftsmen who built one of the ancient world's most important crossroads, one stone at a time. The cave sanctuary of Karlukovo, hidden within the limestone cliffs of northern Bulgaria, where forests blanket the valleys and rivers disappear beneath the earth. A vast cave opens into darkness. Its entrance is quiet. Cold air drifts from deep within the mountain. Sunlight fades with every step. Towering chambers stretch high above the floor. Ancient passages twist through solid rock. For thousands of years, people entered these caves carrying far more than torches. They brought prayers, offerings, and beliefs shaped by a world where caves were seen as gateways between the human and the sacred. This is the cave sanctuary of Karlukovo, one of Europe's oldest ritual landscapes, where archaeology continues to uncover traces of worship that span thousands of years. The Karlukovo region lies within one of Bulgaria's largest karst landscapes, over millions of years. Underground rivers slowly dissolved the limestone beneath the hills. The result was an extraordinary network of caves, sinkholes, underground streams, and towering caverns stretching for many kilometers. Long before modern explorers arrived, these natural chambers attracted the attention of prehistoric communities. Their immense scale inspired both curiosity and reverence. Archaeological evidence suggests that people visited these caves from prehistoric times onward. Stone tools, fragments of pottery, animal bones, charcoal, and ceremonial objects have all been recovered from different parts of the cave system, rather than serving only as temporary shelters. Several chambers appear to have been used repeatedly for ritual activity over many generations. The caves became places where nature and belief came together. Unlike temples built from stone blocks, the sanctuary at Karlukovo was created almost entirely by nature. Massive stalactites hung from the ceiling. Towering stalagmites rose from the floor, in some places. They joined together to form enormous natural columns. Underground pools reflected the flickering light of ancient fires. To early visitors, these dramatic formations may have seemed like the work of supernatural forces rather than ordinary geology. One of the cave's greatest mysteries is why certain chambers attracted repeated ritual use, while others remained untouched. Excavations have revealed concentrations of pottery, burned animal remains, and ash deposits in carefully selected locations. Some spaces appear to have served as gathering areas. Others may have been reserved for ceremonies performed by only a small number of individuals. The cave itself shaped the rituals that took place within it. Researchers believe fire played an important role inside the sanctuary. Charcoal deposits indicate that torches and ceremonial fires illuminated the darkness. Their light would have danced across wet limestone walls, creating shifting shadows among the towering rock formations. Sounds echoed through the chambers. Every movement became amplified. The cave offered an atmosphere unlike any open-air sanctuary. Its natural architecture transformed ordinary ceremonies into unforgettable experiences. As archaeologists continued excavating, evidence emerged from many different periods. Prehistoric communities visited the caves, Later Thracian groups may have continued using certain chambers for religious purposes during the medieval period. Hermits and monks sought solitude within the same underground passages, rather than belonging to a single civilization. Karlukovo became a sacred landscape shared across thousands of years. Each generation left behind small traces of its presence. The surrounding landscape also contributed to the site's importance. Freshwater springs emerged from the limestone hills. Dense forests provided abundant wildlife. Nearby valleys supported farming communities. The caves occupied a place where mountains, water, and fertile land came together. Many ancient cultures regarded such places as spiritually significant. Karlukovo may have held exactly that kind of special status. Modern archaeological investigations continue revealing new information about the sanctuary. Laser scanning maps hidden chambers with extraordinary accuracy. Microscopic analysis examines soot left behind by ancient torches. Radiocarbon dating helps establish when different sections of the cave were used. Even today, researchers continue discovering previously unexplored passages hidden deep beneath the mountain. Much of the underground system remains largely untouched. Unlike many archaeological sites exposed to centuries of weather, the caves protected countless fragile remains. Stable underground temperatures preserved organic materials that would have disappeared elsewhere. Tiny fragments of charcoal, bones, plant remains, and ancient sediments continue providing valuable evidence about the people who entered these chambers thousands of years ago. Sometimes, the smallest discoveries reveal the greatest stories. Standing inside the sanctuary today, silence fills the darkness. Drops of water fall slowly from the ceiling. Ancient limestone formations continue growing, just as they have for countless generations. The fires have gone out, the ceremonies have ended, yet the cave still inspires the same feeling of wonder that first drew people beneath the mountain thousands of years ago. Some places seem naturally suited for reflection. Karlukovo is one of them. The cave sanctuary of Karlukovo reminds us that humanity's earliest sacred places were often shaped not by architects, but by nature itself. Long before great temples rose across Europe, people gathered within these silent caverns, seeking meaning beneath the earth. Today, its hidden chambers continue preserving the quiet story of faith, curiosity, and the enduring relationship between ancient people and the landscapes they believed were touched by the sacred. The rock-cut tombs of Pinara. Pinara was one of the principal cities of ancient Lycia, a civilization that flourished along Turkey's Mediterranean coast long before Roman rule. Surrounded by dramatic mountains and deep valleys, the city occupied a naturally defensive position overlooking fertile farmland and important trade routes. Its unusual landscape shaped almost every aspect of daily life, including the way its people honored the dead. Unlike many ancient civilizations that buried their dead beneath the ground, the Lycians carved magnificent tombs directly into towering cliffs. At Pinara, more than 900 rock-cut tombs have been identified. Together, they form one of the largest collections of ancient cliff tombs anywhere in the Mediterranean. From a distance, the mountainside appears covered with countless windows, each one leading into a carefully carved burial chamber. The builders selected the highest cliffs for many of these tombs. Reaching them would have required remarkable skill. Archaeologists believe wooden scaffolding and rope systems were used to carve the chambers high above the valley floor. The greater the difficulty, the greater the honor bestowed upon the individual buried within. Height itself may have carried symbolic meaning, bringing the deceased closer to the heavens. Many of the tombs were designed to resemble timber houses. Although carved entirely from solid limestone, their facades imitate wooden beams, roof supports, and carefully crafted doorways. Historians believe the Lycians intentionally recreated the appearance of the homes where people had lived. Death did not mark the end of one's house, only a transition into another dwelling prepared for eternity. Other tombs display magnificent temple-style architecture. Columns frame the entrances. Triangular pediments rise above carved doorways. Decorative reliefs once covered many of the facades. Some preserve inscriptions identifying the families who commissioned them. Others remain anonymous, their owners forgotten while their monuments continue standing after thousands of years. Excavations around Pinara have uncovered pottery, jewelry, coins, ceramic vessels, glass objects, bronze ornaments, and fragments of funerary offerings placed beside the dead. These discoveries reveal that burial ceremonies extended far beyond the construction of the tomb itself. Families likely returned repeatedly to honor their ancestors through offerings and ritual gatherings. The cliffs became sacred places of remembrance. Pinara itself was far more than a necropolis. Below the cliffs, archaeologists uncovered theaters, temples, public baths, marketplaces, and residential districts. Thousands of people once lived beneath the very tombs that overlooked their city. Every morning, citizens walked through streets watched over by generations of their ancestors carved into the mountains above. The living and the dead shared the same landscape. One of the site's greatest mysteries is the extraordinary number of tombs. Even after centuries of study, researchers continued debating exactly how they were allocated. Some belonged to wealthy families. Others may have served entire communities across several generations. Many chambers contain multiple burials, suggesting that family identity remains central to Lycian society long after death. Modern archaeology continues revealing remarkable details about Pinera. Laser scanning records every carved facade. Drone surveys map cliff faces that remain difficult to access. Conservation teams carefully preserve fragile reliefs weathered by centuries of wind and rain. Ground excavations continue uncovering homes, public buildings, and everyday objects buried beneath the ancient city. Large sections of Pinera still remain unexplored. Standing below the cliffs today, the silence is striking. The valley stretches peacefully into the distance. Wildflowers grow among fallen stones. Above, hundreds of carved tombs continue watching over the ancient city. The people who created them disappeared long ago. Their language faded, their customs changed. Yet their remarkable monuments still dominate the mountainside, exactly as they did more than 2,000 years ago. The rock-cut tombs of Pinera remind us that some civilizations chose to preserve memory not beneath the earth, but high above it, carved into solid stone. These extraordinary chambers transformed an ordinary mountain into one of the ancient world's greatest monuments to remembrance. Today, they continue overlooking the Lycian landscape, quietly preserving the story of a people who believed that even in death, home should remain forever. The buried steppe tombs of Beryl. The Beryl burial ground lies in the Altai Mountains of eastern Kazakhstan, near the meeting point of several ancient cultures. For thousands of years, nomadic peoples traveled across these immense grasslands with their herds, following seasonal pastures between the mountains and the open steppe, although they left behind few permanent cities. They created magnificent burial monuments that continue to dominate the landscape today. Each mound preserves the memory of a powerful family whose influence once reached across the Eurasian frontier. The tombs belong primarily to the Pezeric culture, a society of highly skilled horsemen who flourished during the early Iron Age, around the 4th and 3rd centuries BC. These nomadic communities mastered long-distance travel across the steppe. Their wealth came from livestock, trade, metalworking, and control of important routes connecting Central Asia with distant civilizations. Although they lived mobile lives, their burial monuments were built to endure forever. Each kurgan was carefully constructed. A deep burial chamber was dug into the ground. Massive timber logs formed its walls and roof. The deceased was placed inside alongside valuable possessions. The chamber was then sealed beneath layers of stone and earth, creating an artificial hill visible from great distances. To later generations, these mounds became landmarks across the open landscape. Their size reflected the importance of the individuals buried within. One of the greatest archaeological surprises came when excavators opened several of the tombs. Water had seeped into the burial chambers shortly after they were sealed. As winter temperatures dropped, the water froze. The frozen ground remained undisturbed for centuries. This natural layer of ice protected wood, leather, textiles, and even organic remains that would normally decay. The result was one of the most remarkable examples of natural preservation ever discovered. Among the most astonishing finds were 13 beautifully preserved horses buried beside an elite individual. Each horse had been carefully arranged within the chamber. Their bridles remained decorated with elaborate carvings. Leather harnesses survived. Wooden saddles retained intricate ornaments. Some horses even wore ceremonial masks decorated with carved animal figures. These were not ordinary working animals. They accompanied their owner into the afterlife with extraordinary dignity. Excavations also uncovered remarkable objects placed beside the deceased. Gold jewelry, bronze mirrors, iron weapons, wooden furniture, fine textiles, fur garments, ceramic vessels, and beautifully carved wooden sculptures emerged from the frozen chambers. Many objects display extraordinary artistic skill, combining practical craftsmanship with symbolic animal imagery characteristic of steppe cultures. The quality of these artifacts reflects a society far more sophisticated than once believed. The horses themselves have transformed archaeologists' understanding of ancient nomadic life. Careful scientific analysis revealed their age, health, diet, and even evidence of riding equipment. Some animals had traveled long distances during their lives. Others were selected specifically for ceremonial purposes. Together, They demonstrate the deep relationship between steppe communities and the horses that shaped every aspect of their existence. Modern scientific research has added even more remarkable discoveries. DNA analysis has provided insight into family relationships and population movements across Central Asia. Microscopic studies of preserved textiles reveal advanced weaving techniques. Pollen recovered from the burial chambers helps reconstruct the surrounding environment as it appeared more than 2,000 years ago. Every scientific investigation uncovers another detail preserved by the frozen earth. The burial kurgans also reveal the importance of belief among ancient nomadic societies. Death was not viewed as an ending, but as the beginning of another journey. Weapons, food, jewelry, clothing, and loyal horses accompanied the deceased into the next world. Every carefully arranged object reflected preparation for a life beyond death. The burial itself became one final act of honor. Standing among the kurgans today, the landscape feels almost endless. The mountains rise quietly beyond the open steppe. The same winds that once swept across the camps of Iron Age horsemen still move through the grass. The burial mounds remain unchanged. Beneath them, frozen chambers continue preserving stories untouched for more than 20 centuries. Many have yet to be excavated. Their secrets still rest beneath the earth. The buried steppe tombs of Beryl remind us that some of history's greatest archaeological discoveries survive not because they were forgotten, but because nature chose to protect them. Hidden beneath quiet mounds on the Kazakh steppe, ice preserved an entire world of warriors, craftsmen, horsemen, and ancient traditions. Today, every excavation reveals another remarkable chapter from a civilization that crossed the vast grasslands long before written history reached these mountains. The carved ship burial of Oseberg. The Oseberg burial mound dates to around AD 834, during the height of the Viking Age, at a time when Norse sailors crossed the North Atlantic, explored distant coastlines, and established settlements across Europe. A magnificent funeral ceremony took place beside the Oslo fjord, rather than burying their dead in an ordinary grave. The mourners placed them inside a beautifully crafted ship, transforming one of the greatest symbols of Viking life into a monument for death. The ship itself is a masterpiece of Scandinavian craftsmanship. Constructed almost entirely from carefully shaped oak, it measures more than 21 meters in length. Its graceful bow curves elegantly upward. Intricate carvings decorate the stem and stern. Rows of oar holes line its sides, although fully capable of sailing calm waters. The vessel appears to have been built primarily as a ceremonial ship, designed to reflect prestige rather than military power. Every detail demonstrates extraordinary skill. At the center of the ship, archaeologists uncovered a carefully built wooden burial chamber. Inside rested the remains of two women. One was likely around 80 years old, the other much younger. Their exact identities remain uncertain. Some researchers believe the older woman may have been a queen, a powerful noblewoman, or perhaps an important religious leader. Others suggest both women held high status within Viking society. Their true story has never been fully uncovered. The grave goods astonished archaeologists. Beautifully carved wooden sledges, decorated wagons, elaborate beds, chests, buckets, textiles, animal head posts, cooking equipment, tools, and finely woven tapestries filled the burial chamber. Few Viking graves have ever produced such an extraordinary collection of objects. Together, they provide an unmatched glimpse into elite life during the 9th century. One of the burial's most remarkable features is the extraordinary quality of its wood carvings. Dragons, serpents, interwoven animals, and intricate geometric patterns cover many of the artifacts. These delicate decorations demonstrate that Viking art extended far beyond weapons and warfare. The craftsmen responsible possessed remarkable artistic ability. Even everyday objects became works of art. Excavations also revealed the remains of numerous sacrificed animals. Horses, dogs, oxen, and other creatures had been carefully placed aboard the ship before the mound was sealed. In Norse belief, these animals may have accompanied the deceased into the next world. Their presence reflects the importance of both ritual and status within Viking funerary traditions. Nothing inside the ship appears accidental. Every object carried symbolic meaning. One reason the Oseberg burial survived so remarkably well was the unique environment inside the mound. Thick layers of blue clay sealed the ship from air and moisture. The waterlogged conditions slowed the decay of wood, leather, and many organic materials. Although delicate textiles required careful conservation after excavation, thousands of fragile artifacts survived that would normally have disappeared forever. Nature itself became the guardian of the burial. Modern scientific research continues revealing new information about Oseberg. DNA studies, isotope analysis, and advanced imaging techniques help archaeologists understand the women's origins, health, diet, and possible family relationships. Microscopic examination of preserved textiles reveals sophisticated weaving methods. Every new investigation uncovers another detail about Viking society that remained hidden for more than 11 centuries. The Oseberg discovery also transformed our understanding of Viking civilization. For generations, popular imagination focused mainly on raiders and warriors. The burial tells a far richer story. It reveals master shipbuilders, highly skilled artists, complex religious beliefs, and powerful women who may have held significant influence within their communities. The Viking world was far more sophisticated than legend alone suggests. Standing where the burial mound once rose, the Norwegian countryside remains peaceful. The fjord still reflects the northern sky. The ship no longer rests beneath the earth, but its remarkable story continues to inspire archaeologists around the world. Every carved plank, every woven textile, and every carefully placed artifact preserves the memory of a funeral unlike any other, a final voyage that never touched the sea, yet carried its passengers across more than 1,000 years of history. The carved ship burial of Oseberg reminds us that archaeology sometimes uncovers far more than ancient objects. It reveals lives, beliefs, and traditions preserved with extraordinary care, hidden beneath a quiet Norwegian mound. One magnificent ship carried not only two remarkable individuals, but an entire civilization's understanding of honor, memory, and the journey beyond death. The stone fortress of Ismet el Karab. Ismet el Karab lies within the fertile Dakhla oasis, nearly 800 kilometers southwest of Cairo. Surrounded by some of the harshest desert landscapes on Earth, the oasis has supported human settlement for thousands of years. Underground aquifers brought precious water to the surface, allowing agriculture to flourish where endless sand might otherwise have made life impossible. For travelers crossing the western desert, places like Kelis became essential refuges. Although the oasis had been occupied much earlier, the city reached its greatest prosperity during the Roman period. From the 1st through the 4th centuries AD, Kelis developed into a busy provincial town connected to Egypt's wider economy. Caravans traveled between the Nile Valley and neighboring oases. Grain, dates, olive oil, wine, textiles, and livestock passed through its markets. Despite its remote location, the settlement remained closely connected to the Roman world. The city's defensive walls protected both its people and its valuable resources. Constructed primarily from mud brick, the fortifications enclosed homes, administrative buildings, temples, workshops, and storage facilities. Watchtowers overlooked the surrounding desert. Controlled gateways regulated movement into the town, although the walls were not as massive as those of great imperial cities. They provided vital security in an isolated frontier environment. As archaeologists excavated the settlement, an entire urban landscape gradually emerged. Wide streets connected residential districts. Courtyards formed the center of family homes. Workshops produced pottery, textiles, and tools. Granaries stored valuable harvests gathered from nearby fields. The careful planning of the city reflects a stable community that expected to endure for generations. One of the most remarkable discoveries at Kelis has been its extraordinary collection of written documents. Hundreds of letters, legal records, religious texts, school exercises, and personal correspondence survived beneath the desert sands. Written in Greek, Coptic, and other languages, these fragile manuscripts provide an unusually intimate glimpse into everyday life. Instead of learning only about emperors and governors, archaeologists discovered the voices of ordinary people. Parents wrote to children, merchants discussed business, neighbors exchanged news. History became deeply personal. Religion also played a central role within the settlement. Excavations uncovered temples dedicated to traditional Egyptian deities, alongside evidence of early Christian communities. By the 4th century, churches stood beside older religious buildings. The city became a place where different beliefs existed side by side during a period of profound cultural change across the Roman Empire. Its ruins preserve this remarkable transition. Thousands of artifacts have emerged from the excavation. Pottery vessels, glass cups, bronze tools, wooden furniture, leather sandals, jewelry, coins, children's toys, and woven textiles all reveal the routines of everyday life, rather than focusing only on monumental architecture. These discoveries allow archaeologists to reconstruct the lives of families who called the oasis home. Even the smallest objects tell important stories. The dry desert climate became one of archaeology's greatest allies. Organic materials that would normally decay survived beneath the sand. Wood remained intact. Textiles retained their fibers. Papyrus documents endured for centuries. Food remains, seeds, and plant fibers preserved valuable evidence about agriculture and diet. Nature quietly protected a remarkable archive of ancient daily life. Modern archaeological investigations continue, transforming our understanding of Kelis. Careful excavation reveals additional neighborhoods hidden beneath collapsed mud brick. Digital mapping reconstructs the city's original layout. Laboratory studies analyze ancient pollen, seeds, and animal remains. Researchers continue translating newly discovered documents that shed fresh light on life in Roman Egypt. Even after decades of research, much of the ancient settlement remains buried. Standing among the ruins today, the desert is almost silent. Palm trees sway gently across the oasis. The narrow streets remain empty. The voices recorded in ancient letters have long faded, yet their words still survive. Their homes still stand. Their city continues rising quietly from the desert, exactly where they built it nearly 2,000 years ago. Few archaeological sites preserve ordinary life with such remarkable clarity. The stone fortress of Ismet el Karab reminds us that history is not found only in royal palaces or monumental temples. Sometimes its greatest discoveries come from forgotten towns on the edge of the desert, where ordinary families lived, worked, prayed, and left behind a record so complete that archaeologists can still hear their stories across the centuries. The rock-cut fortress of Ushisar's water tunnels, at the heart of Cappadocia, where towering pillars of volcanic stone rise above a landscape unlike anywhere else on Earth. An enormous rock fortress dominates the horizon. Its summit overlooks valleys carved by millions of years of erosion. Hundreds of windows pierce its towering cliffs. Hidden entrances disappear into solid stone. From the outside, it appears to be a natural mountain, but inside, an entire underground world unfolds. Rooms, passageways, storage chambers, secret tunnels, and an extraordinary network of water systems carved deep into the rock. This is Ushisar Fortress, the highest point in Cappadocia, where generations transformed a volcanic hill into one of Anatolia's most remarkable defensive strongholds. Ushisar stands in central Turkey, within the famous region of Cappadocia. Millions of years ago, ancient volcanoes covered the landscape with thick layers of volcanic ash. Over time, the ash hardened into a soft stone known as tuff. Wind and rain gradually sculpted the terrain into valleys, cliffs, and the distinctive rock formations that define the region today. Unlike ordinary stone, tuff could be carved with simple tools. It offered ancient communities an extraordinary opportunity. Instead of building cities, they carved them. The fortress itself rises nearly 60 meters above the surrounding valleys. Its commanding position allowed watchmen to observe movement for many kilometers in every direction. Approaching travelers and potential enemies could all be seen long before reaching the settlement. For centuries, control of the fortress meant control of the surrounding landscape. Its greatest strength came not from its walls, but from the mountain itself. Generation after generation, people hollowed out hundreds of rooms inside the volcanic rock. Homes, granaries, wine presses, storerooms, animal shelters, chapels, and defensive chambers gradually spread throughout the interior. Rather than expanding outward, the settlement expanded inward. Each generation carved new spaces while preserving older ones. The fortress slowly became a vertical city hidden inside solid stone. Among its most remarkable features are the water tunnels that made long-term survival possible. Living atop an isolated rock offered excellent protection, but access to water remained a constant challenge. To solve this problem, builders carved deep shafts through the volcanic stone, connecting the upper fortress to underground water sources below. Some passages descended dozens of meters beneath the surface. Others linked hidden cisterns capable of storing precious rainwater. Without these remarkable systems, the fortress could never have survived prolonged sieges. Archaeologists have identified numerous cisterns distributed throughout the fortress. Rainwater collected across the summit was carefully directed into underground reservoirs. Stone channels guided water through different sections of the settlement. The soft volcanic rock made excavation possible, but careful engineering prevented collapse. These hidden water supplies allowed inhabitants to remain safely inside the fortress, even when surrounded by hostile forces. Water became their greatest defense. Excavations have also revealed evidence of everyday life within the fortress. Grinding stones, cooking vessels, storage jars, oil lamps, metal tools, animal bones, and fragments of pottery have all emerged from the carved chambers. These discoveries show that Ushasar functioned as far more than a military refuge. Entire families lived within its walls. Children grew up among its tunnels. Daily life continued high above the valleys below. During the Byzantine period, the fortress became one of Cappadocia's most important defensive centers. As raids threatened the region, local communities expanded the network of tunnels and hidden rooms. Small chapels were carved into the rock. Narrow stairways connected different levels. Certain entrances could be sealed during emergencies. The mountain itself became an enormous fortress that blended almost perfectly into the surrounding landscape. One of the most fascinating aspects of Ushasar is how naturally it conceals its true complexity. From a distance, only scattered openings are visible. Yet behind those small entrances lies an astonishing maze extending through multiple levels. Many tunnels remain extremely narrow. Others suddenly open into large communal chambers. Even today, researchers continue discovering previously undocumented spaces hidden within the rock. The fortress still keeps many of its secrets. Modern archaeological investigations combine traditional excavation with advanced digital technology. Laser scanners map the interior in remarkable detail. Ground-penetrating surveys identify hidden chambers beyond visible walls. Structural studies help preserve fragile tunnels weakened by centuries of erosion. Conservation teams carefully stabilize ancient stairways and water shafts. Although much has been documented, large sections of the fortress remain only partially explored. Standing atop Ushasar today, the entire landscape of Cappadocia stretches to the horizon. Fairy chimneys rise from the valleys. Ancient cave churches dot the cliffs. The same winds that shaped the volcanic rock continue sweeping across the plateau. Far below, the hidden water tunnels remain silent, no longer carrying water to frighten defenders, but preserving the remarkable ingenuity of the people who once depended upon them for survival. The rock-cut fortress of Ushasar reminds us that the greatest fortresses are not always built stone upon stone. Sometimes, they are carved from the mountain itself. Hidden beneath Cappadocia's extraordinary landscape, its tunnels, cisterns, and underground chambers reveal a civilization that mastered both nature and engineering. Today, the fortress continues standing above the valleys, a silent monument to human resilience, and one of the ancient world's most remarkable rock-cut cities. The sunken harbor of Apollonia's outer breakwater. Apollonia served as the principal port of Cyrene, one of the greatest Greek cities in North Africa, founded during the Greek colonial period. The harbor connected Cyrene with the wider Mediterranean world. Merchant ships arrived carrying olive oil, wine, marble, ceramics, timber, and luxury goods from distant lands. From this sheltered coastline, trade linked North Africa with Greece, Egypt, Asia Minor, and the cities of the Roman Empire. The sea became the city's greatest highway. To protect the harbor from powerful Mediterranean storms, ancient engineers constructed an enormous outer breakwater, built from thousands of carefully cut limestone blocks. The barrier extended into the sea, reducing the force of incoming waves before they reached the docks. Behind its shelter, merchant vessels could anchor safely while loading cargo or waiting for favorable winds. Without the breakwater, the harbor could never have supported the busy maritime traffic that made Apollonia prosperous. Constructing such a massive structure demanded extraordinary planning. Workers quarried enormous blocks from nearby limestone hills. Each stone weighed several tons. The blocks were transported to the shoreline, then carefully positioned to create a continuous protective wall stretching into the sea. Rather than relying on mortar alone, their immense weight provided remarkable stability against centuries of crashing waves. Even today, large sections remain surprisingly intact beneath the water. As archaeologists began exploring the submerged harbor, an entire underwater landscape gradually emerged. The outer breakwater, stone quays, ancient slipways, harbor basins, collapsed warehouses, and fallen architectural fragments all appeared beneath layers of marine sediment. Fish now swim through structures once crowded with merchants, sailors, dockworkers, and visiting travelers. The sea quietly preserved what history had forgotten. One of the greatest mysteries surrounding Apollonia is why much of its harbor now lies underwater. Geological studies suggest that a combination of powerful earthquakes, gradual coastal subsidence, and rising sea levels slowly altered the shoreline over many centuries. Several devastating earthquakes struck the region during late antiquity. Entire sections of the waterfront collapsed into the Mediterranean. Rather than being destroyed all at once, the harbor slowly disappeared beneath the sea. Modern underwater archaeology has revealed remarkable evidence of ancient maritime engineering. Divers have documented carefully fitted stone blocks that still remain aligned after more than 2 millennia. Some sections preserve original construction techniques with astonishing clarity. Anchors, pottery, amphorae, and fragments of ship equipment have also been recovered from the harbor floor. Every dive uncovers another chapter of Apollonia's maritime past. The harbor was far more than a commercial center. It also connected cultures. Greek settlers, Roman officials, Egyptian merchants, North African traders, and sailors from across the Mediterranean all passed through its docks. Different languages echoed across the waterfront. Ideas traveled alongside cargo. The harbor became a meeting place where civilizations exchanged far more than goods. Today, advanced underwater technology continues transforming the study of Apollonia. Marine archaeologists use sonar mapping, photogrammetry, and three-dimensional digital modeling to record submerged structures without disturbing them. Each survey reveals new sections of the ancient harbor hidden beneath layers of sand. Large portions of the breakwater remain unexplored. The Mediterranean still guards many of its secrets. Standing on the cliffs above Apollonia today, the sea appears calm and timeless. Gentle waves roll across the bay. Nothing suggests that an entire harbor lies beneath the surface. Yet below the water, ancient walls continue protecting ships that disappeared thousands of years ago. The breakwater still follows the same line laid out by Greek engineers, its remarkable design surviving even after the city itself faded into history. The sunken harbor of Apollonia reminds us that some of archaeology's greatest discoveries are hidden not beneath deserts or forests, but beneath the sea, far below the Mediterranean's clear waters. Its submerged harbor continues preserving the story of a thriving ancient port, a masterpiece of engineering, and a civilization whose connection to the sea shaped every part of its history. The desert town of Karanis, on the edge of Egypt's Fayum oasis, where fertile farmland slowly gives way to open desert. The ruins of an ancient town rest beneath drifting sand. Mud brick houses line quiet streets. Broken columns rise above abandoned courtyards. Empty granaries overlook fields that once fed thousands of people. From a distance, the settlement appears almost forgotten, yet beneath these weathered walls, archaeologists uncovered one of the most complete pictures of everyday life ever discovered in Roman Egypt. This is Karanis, a desert town where ordinary families left behind an extraordinary record of life nearly 2,000 years ago. Karanis was founded during the Ptolemaic period, around the 3rd century BC, when the Greek rulers of Egypt transformed the fertile Fayum basin into one of the country's richest agricultural regions. New canals brought water from the Nile. Previously dry land became productive farmland. Farmers, craftsmen, merchants, and veterans from the Greek army settled here, gradually building a prosperous rural community. After Egypt became part of the Roman Empire, Karanis continued to flourish. Its fertile fields produced enormous quantities of wheat, barley, olives, and grapes. These harvests supplied both local markets and distant cities across the empire. Although far from Alexandria or Rome, the town became an important agricultural center whose prosperity depended upon careful irrigation and successful farming. Unlike monumental cities filled with grand temples, Karanis was built for ordinary people. Its streets were lined with modest mud brick houses. Most homes contained small courtyards, storage rooms, kitchens, and staircases leading to upper floors. Families lived, worked, cooked, and raised children within these simple buildings. Because so much of the town survived, archaeologists have been able to reconstruct daily life with remarkable detail. Excavations revealed workshops where craftsmen produced pottery, textiles, leather goods, and metal tools. Granaries stored grain harvested from nearby fields. Animal pens housed livestock. Bakeries prepared bread for local families. Every neighborhood reflected the rhythm of ordinary life, rather than royal ceremony. History here belonged to farmers, not pharaohs. One of Karanis's greatest archaeological treasures was not its architecture, but its documents. The dry desert climate preserved thousands of fragile papyrus manuscripts, letters, tax records, marriage contracts, receipts, school exercises, business agreements, and private correspondence all survived beneath the sand. Few archaeological sites have ever revealed so many personal voices from the ancient world. Instead of reading only about emperors, we hear directly from ordinary people. These documents reveal surprisingly familiar concerns. Parents worried about their children. Farmers discussed poor harvests. Neighbors borrowed money. Merchants negotiated prices. Officials collected taxes. Students practiced handwriting. Even small disagreements between family members survived on fragile sheets of papyrus. the people of Karanis suddenly became individuals. Not anonymous figures from history. Religion also played an important role within the town. Several temples stood among the residential districts. The most important were dedicated to the crocodile gods Pinepheros and Pitisushos, local deities closely connected with the Fayoum oasis. Later, Christian communities also established churches within the settlement. Over the centuries, different religious traditions existed side by side, reflecting the changing spiritual landscape of Roman Egypt. Thousands of artifacts have emerged from excavation. Glass vessels, wooden furniture, bronze tools, jewelry, sandals, cooking pots, children's toys, oil lamps, basketry, animal bones, seeds, and woven textiles all help reconstruct everyday life with extraordinary clarity. Few places preserve such a complete picture of an ancient farming community. Even discarded rubbish became valuable evidence for archaeologists. The desert itself became one of the site's greatest protectors. After the town was gradually abandoned during the 5th century AD, wind-blown sand slowly buried its streets. The dry climate prevented many organic materials from decaying. Wood, papyrus, leather, and cloth survived for centuries beneath the desert surface. Nature quietly preserved an entire community waiting to be rediscovered. Modern archaeological research continues uncovering new information about Karanis. Researchers examine ancient pollen to reconstruct local agriculture. Digital mapping records every surviving building. Laboratory analysis reveals the diets, health, and occupations of the town's inhabitants. Even after decades of excavation, large areas of the settlement remain only partially explored. Countless stories still lie beneath the sand. Standing among the ruins today, the desert is almost silent. The irrigation canals have largely disappeared. The marketplaces no longer echo with conversation. The families who once filled these streets have long since vanished, yet their homes remain. Their letters survive. Their belongings still rest where they left them. Few archaeological sites allow us to step so closely into the everyday lives of ordinary people. The desert town of Karanis reminds us that history is not shaped only by kings, conquerors, or great monuments. Sometimes, its richest stories are found inside humble homes, written in personal letters, and preserved beneath quiet desert sands. Here, an ordinary Roman town became one of archaeology's most extraordinary windows into the lives of the people history so often forgets. The citadel of Hegmatane, beneath the modern city of Hamadan in western Iran, where busy streets and crowded markets fill the landscape, an ancient city still lies hidden below the ground. Its walls are buried beneath centuries of rebuilding. Its palaces have almost vanished. Its temples survive only in fragments. From the surface, there is little to suggest that this was once one of the greatest capitals of the ancient world. Yet every excavation reveals another piece of a city whose history stretches back more than 2,500 years. This is Hegmatane, known to the ancient Greeks as Ecbatana, a royal citadel that served mighty empires long before the rise of Persepolis. Hegmatane was founded by the Medes, an ancient Iranian people who established one of the region's first great kingdoms during the 7th century BC. According to historical tradition, the Median king Deioces selected this strategic valley as the location for his royal capital. Surrounded by the Zagros Mountains, the city occupied an ideal position. It controlled important trade routes linking Mesopotamia with the Iranian plateau, while fertile valleys supported a growing population. The location offered both prosperity and protection. Long before the Persian Empire emerged, Hegmatana had already become one of the most influential cities in Western Asia. Its rulers governed vast territories. Merchants arrived from distant kingdoms. Diplomats traveled through its gates. Royal ceremonies filled its palaces. Although much of the ancient city has disappeared beneath the modern landscape, its influence shaped the political history of the ancient Near East for centuries. When Cyrus the Great established the Achaemenid Persian Empire, Hegmatana remained one of its most important royal cities, rather than abandoning the old Median capital. The Persian kings expanded it, alongside Persepolis, Susa, and Babylon. Hegmatana became one of the empire's principal administrative centers. During the hot summer months, Persian rulers often chose the city's cooler mountain climate as their seasonal residence. The ancient capital continued serving successive generations of kings. Modern excavations have uncovered remarkable evidence of careful urban planning beneath layers of soil. Archaeologists discovered long rows of mud brick buildings arranged in an orderly grid. Straight streets separated residential districts. Large courtyards occupied the center of many structures. Storage rooms, administrative buildings, and workshops gradually emerged from beneath the earth. The city was not built randomly. Its layout reflects deliberate planning on an impressive scale. One of the site's most fascinating discoveries has been its extensive architectural remains: massive mud brick walls, stone foundations, drainage channels, and carefully paved courtyards reveal the sophistication of ancient construction. Although later rebuilding destroyed many monumental palaces, enough survives to demonstrate that Hegmatane once ranked among the grandest cities of its age. Its importance extended far beyond military power alone. Archaeologists have recovered thousands of artifacts from the citadel: pottery vessels, bronze tools, iron weapons, stone seals, jewelry, coins, glass objects, and beautifully crafted ceramics all help reconstruct daily life across different periods of occupation, rather than representing a single civilization. The site preserves evidence from the Median, Achaemenid, Seleucid, Parthian, and Sasanian periods, each empire built upon the foundations left by those before it. One remarkable feature of Hegmatane is the extraordinary depth of its archaeological layers. For more than 2,000 years, new buildings replaced older ones. Collapsed structures became the foundations for later construction, generation after generation. The city slowly rose higher above the surrounding plain. Every meter beneath the modern streets preserves another chapter of Iranian history. Excavating here is like traveling backward through time. The city's strategic location also made it a center of international trade. Caravans carrying precious metals, fine textiles, spices, wine, and luxury goods crossed the Zagros Mountains before reaching Hegmatane. Merchants from Mesopotamia, Central Asia, and the Iranian plateau exchanged products, ideas, and cultures within its markets. The city became one of the great crossroads of the ancient world. Modern archaeological research continues expanding our understanding of the site. Ground-penetrating surveys reveal hidden walls beneath unexcavated areas. Digital mapping reconstructs the original street network. Laboratory analysis studies ancient building materials and everyday artifacts. Each excavation season uncovers additional neighborhoods buried beneath the modern city. Much of ancient Hegmatane still remains hidden. Its greatest discoveries may yet lie beneath untouched soil. Standing within the excavation today, it is difficult to imagine the grandeur that once filled this landscape. The royal palaces have vanished. The great halls have fallen. The kings who ruled from here are long gone, yet beneath every step, ancient streets remain. Walls continue emerging from the earth. The city still quietly reveals the story of one of history's earliest imperial capitals. Stone by stone, layer by layer, its forgotten past returns to the light. The citadel of Hegmatane reminds us that some of the world's greatest ancient capitals have not disappeared. They simply remain buried beneath the cities that replaced them. Hidden below modern Hamadan, its streets, palaces, and forgotten foundations continue preserving the remarkable story of empires that shaped the ancient Near East, long before history's most famous kingdoms ever rose to power. The ancient port of Kalhat. Kalhat lies on Oman's eastern coastline, perfectly positioned beside a naturally protected harbor. For sailors crossing the Arabian Sea, its location was ideal. Ships traveling between the Persian Gulf, India, East Africa, and the Red Sea could safely anchor here before continuing their long voyages. Long before the arrival of European explorers, Kalhat had already become an essential crossroads of international commerce. The sea shaped every aspect of the city's existence. The city's greatest period of prosperity came between the 13th and 15th centuries. At that time, Kalhat formed part of the powerful kingdom of Hormuz, one of the wealthiest trading states in the medieval world. Merchant fleets regularly entered its harbor carrying spices, silk, porcelain, pearls, ivory, dates, textiles, and precious metals. Every arriving vessel brought not only valuable cargo, but also new languages, religions, and cultures. The port became a meeting place between continents. The Moroccan traveler Ibn Battuta visited Kalhat during the 14th century. He described it as a flourishing city filled with impressive buildings and prosperous merchants. He also praised the hospitality of its people and recorded the city's importance within the Indian Ocean trading network. His account confirms what archaeology has since revealed. Kalhat was far more than a small coastal settlement. It ranked among the great commercial ports of the medieval Islamic world. Excavations have uncovered an impressive urban landscape. Stone houses lined carefully planned streets. Courtyards occupied the centers of wealthy residences. Warehouses stored imported goods arriving from overseas. Public buildings overlooked open squares. Water reservoirs supplied the growing population. The city's architecture reflects remarkable prosperity built almost entirely upon maritime trade. Every structure faced toward the sea. One of the most important monuments discovered at the site is the Bibi Mariam Mausoleum. Although much of the building has collapsed, its surviving walls demonstrate exceptional craftsmanship. Historical records associate the monument with Bibi Mariam, a respected noblewoman who helped oversee the city during its period of greatest influence. Beautiful carved stonework, decorative plaster, and elegant architectural details reflect the sophistication of medieval Omani builders. Archaeologists have recovered thousands of artifacts from the ruins: Chinese porcelain, Persian glazed ceramics, Indian pottery, glass vessels, copper coins, iron tools, stone anchors, jewelry, and locally produced ceramics all reveal the extraordinary diversity of trade passing through the harbor. These discoveries demonstrate that Kalhat maintained commercial relationships extending across much of the known world. Few medieval ports were so internationally connected. The harbor itself played the central role in the city's success. Natural rock formations protected ships from powerful ocean waves. Stone quays allowed cargo to be unloaded efficiently. Warehouses stood close to the waterfront. Nearby freshwater sources supported both sailors and permanent residents. Everything about the city's layout was designed around maritime commerce. The harbor became the heart that sustained the entire settlement. Despite its wealth, Kolat's prosperity did not last forever. During the late 15th and early 16th centuries, a series of devastating earthquakes damaged many important buildings. Political rivalries disrupted regional trade. Soon afterward, Portuguese naval expansion transformed commerce throughout the Indian Ocean. Trade gradually shifted toward other ports. The once busy harbor slowly fell silent. Its streets emptied. Its buildings crumbled beneath. The desert climate. Modern archaeological investigations continue uncovering new sections of the ancient city. Drone surveys map buried foundations hidden beneath the sand. Ground excavations reveal homes, markets, and public buildings preserved for centuries. Laboratory analysis traces the origins of imported ceramics from distant civilizations. Every excavation confirms that Kalhat occupied a central position within one of history's greatest maritime trading networks. Much of the ancient port still remains unexplored. Standing beside the harbor today, the Arabian Sea stretches endlessly toward the horizon. Fishing boats replace the merchant fleets that once crowded the bay. The warehouses stand empty. The marketplaces have vanished. Yet the coastline remains unchanged. The same winds still carry the scent of salt across the ruins. The same sheltered harbor continues protecting vessels from the open sea. History may have moved elsewhere, but the landscape still remembers. The ancient port of Kalat reminds us that some of history's greatest cities were built not beside rivers, but beside the sea, hidden along Oman's rugged coastline. Its forgotten harbor continues preserving the story of merchants, sailors, pilgrims, and explorers who connected three continents long before the modern age of global trade. Today, its weathered ruins remain a quiet testament to one of the medieval world's most remarkable ports. The temple complex of Taposiris Magna. Taposiris Magna was founded during the reign of Ptolemy II Philadelphus. In the 3rd century BC, the city became part of the Ptolemaic kingdom, the Greek dynasty established in Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great. Its location was carefully chosen, positioned between the Mediterranean Sea and Lake Mariaut. The settlement controlled important trade routes linking Alexandria with western Egypt. Merchants, pilgrims, and government officials regularly passed through its gates. At the heart of the city stood a magnificent temple dedicated to Osiris, the ancient Egyptian god of the underworld, resurrection, and eternal life. For thousands of years, Osiris remained one of Egypt's most important deities. Pilgrims traveled great distances to worship at temples devoted to him. Ceremonies celebrated death, renewal, and the promise of rebirth. Taposiris Magna became one of the kingdom's most significant religious centers. The temple reflects a remarkable blend of cultures. Although dedicated to traditional Egyptian beliefs, many architectural features reveal strong Greek influence. Massive limestone walls surround the sacred precinct. Monumental gateways welcomed worshippers. Columns combined Egyptian and Hellenistic design. Decorative carvings blended symbols from two civilizations that had become deeply connected under Ptolemaic rule. The complex became a meeting place between ancient traditions and a changing world. As archaeologists excavated the site, an entire ceremonial landscape gradually emerged. Temple courtyards, underground passageways, stone cisterns, residential buildings, bath complexes. and defensive walls appeared beneath centuries of accumulated sand. Each discovery demonstrated that Taposiris Magna was far more than an isolated temple. It was a thriving city whose religious importance shaped everyday life. One of the site's greatest archaeological mysteries concerns Cleopatra VII, the last ruler of the Ptolemaic kingdom. Ancient writers recorded that Cleopatra and Mark Antony were buried together after their deaths in 30 BC, yet the location of their tomb has never been discovered. Some archaeologists believe Taposiris Magna may hold the answer. Its strong connection with the cult of Osiris, combined with its royal importance, has made it one of the most closely studied archaeological sites in Egypt. The mystery remains unsolved. Modern excavations have uncovered remarkable discoveries supporting the city's royal significance. Coins bearing Cleopatra's image, statues of Egyptian and Greek deities, ceramic vessels, jewelry, bronze objects, stone inscriptions, and beautifully carved architectural fragments have all emerged from the site. Each discovery adds another piece to the complex history of the Ptolemaic kingdom. Yet none has definitively revealed the queen's final resting place. One particularly fascinating aspect of Taposiris Magna is its underground architecture. Archaeologists have discovered an extensive network of tunnels carved through the bedrock beneath the temple. Some passages extend for well over a kilometer. Others descend deep below ground level. Their precise purpose remains debated. They may have served ritual functions, water management, or connected different parts of the sacred complex. Much of this underground world remains unexplored. The temple continued to evolve after the Roman conquest of Egypt. Roman administrators maintained parts of the sanctuary. Later, early Christian communities established churches within the surrounding settlement. Over many centuries, different civilizations reused the same sacred landscape. Each left behind new buildings, new beliefs, and new layers of history preserved beneath the earth. Today, archaeological work at Taposiris Magna continues. With extraordinary intensity, ground-penetrating radar searches for hidden chambers, three-dimensional mapping records buried foundations, excavation teams carefully uncover temples, necropolises, and underground structures layer by layer. Every season brings new discoveries, yet the site's greatest mystery remains unanswered. If Cleopatra's tomb still survives, it may still lie hidden somewhere beneath these ancient stones. Standing among the ruins today, the Mediterranean breeze moves quietly across the temple walls. The sacred courtyards stand empty. The priests have long since vanished. The royal processions have faded into history. Yet the temple continues waiting. Its silent columns, hidden tunnels, and buried chambers still guard secrets that archaeologists have spent decades trying to uncover. Some answers remain just beyond reach. The temple complex of Taposiris Magna reminds us that archaeology is not only about discovering the past, but about pursuing questions that have endured for thousands of years. Hidden beneath Egypt's northern coast, its temples preserve the story of kings, priests, pilgrims, and perhaps even one of history's most famous queens. Until the earth gives up its final secret, Taposiris Magna will remain one of the ancient world's most compelling archaeological mysteries. The fortress of Qasr al-Bint. Qasr al-Bint stands at the center of ancient Petra, the remarkable capital of the Nabatean kingdom. From the 2nd century BC until the Roman conquest, Petra controlled one of the most valuable trade networks in the ancient world. Caravans carrying frankincense, myrrh, spices, silk, and precious goods crossed Arabia before reaching the Mediterranean. Every journey eventually passed through this thriving desert city. Qasr al-Bint stood at its very heart. Although its name means the palace of the pharaoh's daughter, the structure was never a royal palace. Archaeologists now believe it served as Petra's principal temple. Here, priests performed religious ceremonies. Offerings were presented to the Nabatean gods. Kings demonstrated their devotion before important occasions. Religion and government existed side by side. The temple became one of the kingdom's most sacred places. Unlike the famous treasury, which was carved directly into a cliff, Qasr al-Bint was constructed stone by stone. Builders transported enormous sandstone and limestone blocks across the valley. Massive foundations supported walls that originally rose more than 20 meters high. Wooden beams strengthened the upper levels. Its construction demanded extraordinary planning, especially within Petra's challenging desert landscape. Even today, it remains one of the largest freestanding buildings in the ancient city. The temple occupied a commanding position at the end of Petra's grand processional street. Visitors approached along a broad paved avenue lined with monumental buildings. Wide staircases elevated the sanctuary above the surrounding city from its entrance. Priests could overlook the ceremonial district stretching across the valley. Its location reflected both religious importance and political authority. Everything about the building was designed to inspire reverence. excavations have uncovered remarkable evidence of life within the sanctuary. Stone altars, decorated capitals, fragments of painted plaster, incense burners, ceramic vessels, bronze objects, coins, and beautifully carved architectural details have emerged from beneath centuries of collapsed stone. These discoveries reveal a temple that was richly decorated despite its harsh desert surroundings. Its appearance would have impressed every visitor entering Petra. One of the temple's greatest engineering achievements was its ability to survive. Petra lies within an active seismic region. Powerful earthquakes struck the city repeatedly throughout its history. Many surrounding buildings collapsed completely, yet large sections of Qasr al-Bint remained standing, its exceptionally thick walls. Carefully balanced foundations and sophisticated construction techniques allowed the structure to withstand forces that destroyed much of the city around it. Archaeologists have also discovered evidence that the temple evolved over time. The Nabateans expanded and modified different parts of the complex as Petra grew wealthier. After the Roman annexation of the kingdom in AD 106, the sanctuary continued to be used. Later generations repaired damaged sections, added new architectural features, and adapted the building to changing religious traditions. Its story spans several civilizations rather than just one. The temple also highlights the remarkable cultural world of the Nabateans, although famous as desert traders. They were also skilled architects and engineers. Greek, Roman, Egyptian, and local Arabian influences all appear within the temple's design, rather than copying one tradition. The Nabateans blended ideas from many cultures, creating an architectural style that was uniquely their own. Qasr al-Bint became the perfect expression of that identity. Modern archaeological research continues, revealing new details about the monument. Laser scanning records every surviving stone. Ground surveys identify buried structures surrounding the temple. Conservation teams carefully stabilize weathered walls damaged by centuries of erosion. Excavations continue uncovering ceremonial spaces, workshops, and processional routes hidden beneath the sand. Despite decades of study, much of the surrounding complex remains unexplored. Standing before Qasr al-Bint today, the cliffs of Petra glow beneath the desert sun. The great caravans are gone. The incense no longer fills the temple. The priests have long since disappeared, yet the monument remains. Its towering walls continue overlooking the valley exactly as they did more than 2,000 years ago. Stone by stone, it preserves the memory of a civilization that transformed a desert canyon into one of the ancient world's greatest cities. The fortress of Qasr al-Bint reminds us that the strength of a civilization is not measured only by its armies, but by the monuments it builds to express its beliefs, standing at the heart of Petra. This extraordinary temple continues telling the story of the Nabateans, master traders, master builders, and one of history's most remarkable desert civilizations. The Temple of Esna's hidden crypts. The Temple of Esna was largely constructed during the Ptolemaic and Roman periods, between the 2nd century BC and the 3rd century AD. Although Egypt was ruled by Greek kings and later Roman emperors, its ancient religious traditions continued almost unchanged. The temple was dedicated primarily to Khnum, the ram-headed creator god believed to fashion human life upon a divine potter's wheel. For centuries, priests gathered here to perform ceremonies honoring one of Upper Egypt's most important deities. Unlike many Egyptian temples, Esna remained partially buried beneath the growing town for hundreds of years, as buildings rose around it. Only its magnificent hypostyle hall remained visible. Much of the original complex disappeared beneath layers of earth and later construction. Modern excavations have gradually revealed forgotten sections of the sanctuary, including passageways and hidden chambers that had remained sealed for centuries. Among the most fascinating discoveries are the temple's crypts. These narrow underground rooms were carefully concealed within the temple's foundations and lower walls. Access was intentionally restricted. Only a small number of priests would likely have entered these sacred spaces, far removed from the public courtyards above. The crypts became places where some of the temple's most important religious treasures were kept. Archaeologists believe the crypts served several different purposes. Sacred statues of the gods may have been stored here when not used during ceremonies. Temple treasures, ritual equipment, and valuable offerings could be protected within these secure underground chambers. Some rooms may also have housed important religious texts or ceremonial objects used only during special festivals. Their hidden location reflected both practical security and spiritual significance. Excavations have uncovered remarkable architectural details throughout the underground complex. Carefully cut stone corridors connect small chambers. Hidden doorways blend almost seamlessly into surrounding walls. Ventilation shafts provided fresh air beneath the temple. Every passage appears to have been planned with extraordinary precision. Nothing within the crypts was accidental. Even the smallest spaces were designed to serve a specific ritual purpose. The walls of the temple preserve some of the finest inscriptions from the later periods of ancient Egyptian history. Hieroglyphic texts describe religious festivals, daily temple rituals, astronomical observations, and offerings presented to the gods. Many carvings remained hidden beneath centuries of soot and dust until recent conservation work revealed their astonishing detail. Their colors still survive after nearly 2,000 years. Modern restoration has transformed our understanding of Esna. Specialists carefully removed thick layers of smoke deposited over centuries, brilliant blues, deep reds, golden yellows, and vivid greens suddenly reappeared across the temple ceiling. These discoveries reminded archaeologists that ancient Egyptian temples were once filled with color rather than bare stone. The sanctuary looked dramatically different when first completed. The temple also illustrates how Egyptian religion adapted during changing political eras. Greek rulers honored traditional Egyptian gods. Roman emperors funded additions to the sanctuary. Priests continued ancient ceremonies despite shifting governments. The temple became a remarkable symbol of cultural continuity. Empires changed, but worship endured. Today, archaeologists continue exploring previously inaccessible sections of the complex, laser scanning records hidden inscriptions. Digital mapping reconstructs buried foundations. Conservation teams stabilize delicate carvings exposed during excavation. Each new investigation reveals another forgotten corner of the ancient sanctuary. Even after centuries of study, much of Esna still remains beneath the modern town. Standing inside the temple today, massive columns rise toward a ceiling covered with beautifully restored carvings. Sunlight filters through the ancient entrance. Far below, the hidden crypts remain silent. The priests have long since vanished. The sacred statues are gone. Yet the underground chambers continue preserving the quiet mystery of rituals witnessed by only a privileged few. Some secrets were never meant for the outside world. The Temple of Esna's hidden crypts reminds us that ancient temples often concealed worlds beyond what ordinary visitors could see. Beneath magnificent columns, hidden behind sacred walls, its underground chambers protected the spiritual heart of one of Egypt's most enduring religious centers. Even today, as archaeologists continue uncovering its buried passages, the temple still guards mysteries waiting patiently beneath the stone. The fortress of Zenobia, Halabia stands in modern-day Syria, along one of the most strategic stretches of the Euphrates River. For thousands of years, this river served as one of history's great highways. Merchant ships carried goods along its waters. Caravans crossed nearby desert routes, armies marched through its valleys. Whoever controlled this narrow passage controlled one of the principal gateways between Mesopotamia and the Mediterranean. Its location made the fortress invaluable. Although the site had been occupied much earlier, it reached its greatest importance during the 3rd century AD. At that time, the powerful city of Palmyra dominated much of the eastern Roman frontier. Its legendary ruler, Queen Zenobia, expanded her influence across Syria, Egypt, and parts of Asia Minor. Historical tradition associates Halabia with her reign. Many historians believe she strengthened the fortress as part of an ambitious defensive network protecting the Euphrates frontier. After the Roman Empire defeated Zenobia, the fortress remained too important to abandon. Emperor Justinian I later ordered extensive rebuilding during the 6th century AD. Massive stone walls were reinforced. New towers were added, churches, barracks, and public buildings were constructed within the fortified enclosure. The city became one of the Byzantine Empire's strongest frontier garrisons against eastern rivals. Its military importance endured long after Zenobia herself had disappeared into history. The defensive system at Halabia is remarkably sophisticated. Powerful stone walls follow the natural contours of the mountain. Dozens of towers overlook every possible approach. Steep cliffs protect much of the fortress naturally. Only a handful of narrow entrances allow access to the summit. The builders carefully combined architecture with the surrounding landscape. Nature itself became part of the city's defenses. Excavations have revealed far more than military structures. Archaeologists uncovered residential houses, churches, administrative buildings, workshops, cisterns, and paved streets hidden within the walls. Thousands of soldiers were not the fortress's only inhabitants. Families, craftsmen, merchants, and religious communities all lived behind its defenses. The fortress functioned as a complete city rather than simply a military outpost. One of the site's greatest engineering achievements was its water system. although surrounded by dry hills. The inhabitants developed large underground cisterns capable of storing precious rainwater. Stone channels directed runoff into carefully constructed reservoirs. Without these water supplies, the fortress could never have survived prolonged sieges. Every drop was carefully collected and preserved. Water became as valuable as the fortress walls themselves. Archaeologists have recovered a remarkable collection of artifacts from the site. Pottery vessels, glassware, bronze coins, iron weapons, stone inscriptions, jewelry, oil lamps, and fragments of beautifully carved architectural decoration all help reconstruct life within the fortress. These discoveries reveal a community that balanced military discipline with ordinary daily routines. Life continued even while armies guarded the frontier beyond the walls. The fortress also reflects centuries of cultural change. Roman engineers strengthened its earliest fortifications. Byzantine architects expanded churches and defensive towers. Later Islamic communities occupied portions of the settlement after the Arab conquests. Each civilization repaired, modified, and reused the same strategic position. The walls witnessed changing empires without ever changing their purpose. Today, modern archaeological research continues revealing hidden sections of Halabio. Drone surveys map collapsed towers across the mountain ridge. Digital reconstructions help archaeologists understand the original layout of the city. Careful excavations uncover additional homes, public buildings, and forgotten sections of the defensive walls buried beneath centuries of rubble. Much of the fortress still awaits exploration. Standing atop Halabi today, the Euphrates flows quietly below. The desert stretches endlessly beyond the horizon. The watchtowers no longer signal approaching armies. The city gates remain open, the soldiers are gone. Yet the fortress still commands the landscape, exactly as it did 15 centuries ago. Its towering walls continue watching over one of history's oldest rivers, silent witnesses to the rise and fall of great empires. The fortress of Zenobia reminds us that some of history's greatest strongholds were built not simply to defend cities, but to protect entire civilizations. Hidden above the Euphrates, its massive walls preserve the remarkable story of queens, emperors, soldiers, and frontier communities who stood at the crossroads of the ancient world. Even in ruin, Halabia remains one of the Middle East's most extraordinary forgotten fortresses. The fortress of Qasr Berk. Qasr Berk lies within Jordan's vast eastern desert, a region known as the Harat al-Sham. This immense volcanic plateau stretches across parts of Jordan, Syria, and Saudi Arabia. Although the landscape appears harsh and lifeless, hidden springs and seasonal lakes occasionally break the endless expanse of black basalt. For ancient travelers, finding one of these rare water sources could mean the difference between life and death. The oasis at Berk became one of the most valuable stopping points in the region. Archaeological evidence suggests that people visited this oasis for thousands of years. Long before the fortress was built, nomadic communities gathered around the spring. Hunters, pastoralists, and early caravan traders all relied upon its fresh water. Its importance only increased as long-distance trade expanded across the Arabian deserts. Eventually, permanent buildings were constructed to protect both the water and the people who depended upon it. The fortress visible today was largely developed during the Roman and Byzantine periods, though later Islamic rulers also occupied and repaired the site. Built from dark volcanic basalt gathered from the surrounding landscape, its thick walls blended naturally into the desert. Square towers strengthened the corners. Narrow entrances controlled access to the interior. Rather than dominating a large city, the fortress protected a single priceless resource: fresh water. Unlike many ancient forts, Qasr Berk was never surrounded by farmland or dense settlements. Its purpose was entirely different. It watched over caravan routes crossing the eastern frontier. Merchants carrying incense, textiles, spices, glass, and precious goods paused here before continuing their journeys. Soldiers stationed within the fortress ensured that trade could continue safely across one of the harshest environments in the ancient Near East. Excavations have revealed a compact but carefully planned settlement. Stone barracks housed the garrison. Storage rooms protected valuable supplies. Courtyards provided space for animals and daily work. Water channels directed spring water into reservoirs within the enclosure. Every building served the practical needs of survival. Nothing was wasted. Every stone reflected careful planning. One of the site's greatest engineering achievements was its water management system. The natural spring fed a small lake beside the fortress. Builders constructed channels, basins, and reservoirs to collect and distribute this precious resource during dry seasons. Stored water allowed both travelers and soldiers to survive long after surrounding pools had disappeared. In the desert, Engineering was as important as defense. Archaeologists have uncovered a variety of artifacts from the site: pottery vessels, oil lamps, bronze coins, iron arrowheads, stone tools, animal bones, glass fragments, and everyday household objects all help reconstruct life within the fortress. These discoveries reveal that although the settlement was isolated, it remained connected to wider trade networks stretching across the Roman and Byzantine worlds. Even the most remote outposts rarely stood alone. The fortress continued to be occupied through several historical periods. Roman soldiers strengthened its walls, Byzantine communities adapted existing buildings. Later Islamic inhabitants repaired parts of the complex to suit new needs, rather than abandoning the oasis. Successive civilizations recognized its strategic importance. The spring remained valuable regardless of who ruled the surrounding desert. Today, modern archaeological surveys continue expanding our understanding of Kasr-Burk. Drone photography maps the surrounding landscape. Excavations uncover buried structures hidden beneath. Volcanic stone. Environmental studies examine ancient sediments preserved around the oasis, helping researchers reconstruct changing climates over thousands of years. Even now, much of the settlement remains unexplored beneath the desert's surface. Standing beside the fortress today, the silence is almost complete. The wind moves across the basalt plain. Birds gather around the quiet waters of the oasis. The caravans have vanished. The soldiers have departed. Yet the spring still flows, just as it did when the first travelers stopped here thousands of years ago. The fortress continues watching over the desert, its weathered walls preserving the memory of countless journeys that once crossed this forgotten frontier. The fortress of Kasr-Burk reminds us that some of history's most important strongholds were built, not to protect great cities, but to safeguard the essential lifelines of the desert, hidden among Jordan's volcanic plains. Its ancient walls tell the story of merchants, nomads, soldiers, and travelers who depended upon one small oasis to cross one of the world's most unforgiving landscapes. The fortress of Toprak Kala. Toprak Kala was constructed during the 1st century AD, at a time when the kingdom of Khwarezm controlled a prosperous region surrounding the lower Amu Darya River. Although distant from the great empires of Rome and Han China, Khwarezm occupied a strategic position along the trade routes connecting Central Asia with Persia, India, and the eastern steppes. Its rulers grew wealthy through agriculture, commerce, and control of regional trade. Toprak Kala became the kingdom's political heart. Unlike many ancient cities that expanded gradually over centuries, Toprak Kala appears to have been carefully planned from the beginning. The fortress was built upon a rectangular layout. Enormous mud brick walls enclosed the settlement. More than 100 defensive towers strengthened the outer fortifications. Broad gates controlled entry into the city. Every element reflected careful military planning. The capital was designed to impress both visitors and potential enemies. At the center of the fortress stood an immense royal palace. This magnificent complex contained reception halls, private residences, administrative offices, ceremonial chambers, and storerooms. Its walls were once decorated with brightly colored paintings. Large sculptures stood within important rooms. Wooden ceilings rested upon finely crafted columns. The palace served not only as a royal residence, but as the symbol of Khwarezm's power and authority. One of Toprak Kala's greatest archaeological discoveries was its remarkable collection of wall paintings. Although many had faded over time, researchers uncovered vivid scenes portraying nobles, musicians, religious ceremonies, and members of the royal court. Fragments of red, blue, white, and black pigments still survived beneath collapsed walls. These paintings provide one of the finest surviving examples of ancient Central Asian art. Excavations also revealed hundreds of beautifully crafted sculptures. Many were formed from clay, then painted in brilliant colors. Kings, queens, priests, warriors, and divine figures once decorated the palace halls. Some statues stood nearly life-sized. Others occupied ceremonial niches throughout the complex. Together, they transformed ordinary administrative buildings into spaces of royal grandeur. Archaeologists have uncovered an astonishing variety of everyday artifacts: ceramic vessels, glassware, bronze tools, iron weapons, coins, jewelry, wooden objects, stone seals, and written documents all emerged from beneath the desert sands, rather than preserving only royal history. These discoveries reveal the daily lives of officials, craftsmen, servants, and merchants who lived within the fortress. The city functioned as both a royal capital and a thriving community. The fortress also demonstrates remarkable engineering. Its enormous mud brick walls were exceptionally thick, providing protection against both invasion and the harsh desert climate. Wide streets separated residential districts from administrative buildings. Drainage systems controlled seasonal rainwater. Storage facilities preserved food supplies for long periods. The city's builders carefully adapted their architecture to one of Central Asia's demanding environments. Toprak Kala did not exist in isolation. It formed part of a wider network of fortified settlements across ancient Khwarezm, nearby cities. Watchtowers and irrigation canals connected the kingdom into a sophisticated landscape of agriculture and defense. The prosperity of the capital depended upon both fertile farmland and secure frontiers. Together, they sustained one of Central Asia's most enduring civilizations. Modern archaeological research continues revealing new details about the fortress. Drone surveys map buried neighborhoods beyond the visible walls. Laser scanning records fragile architectural remains. Conservation teams preserve delicate murals exposed during excavation. Laboratory studies analyze ancient pigments, textiles, and construction techniques. Even after decades of research, large areas of Toprak Kala remain hidden beneath the desert. Its greatest discoveries may still await excavation. Standing atop the fortress today, the surrounding plain stretches endlessly toward the horizon. The royal palace lies silent. Its painted halls no longer welcome ambassadors. Its towers no longer guard the kingdom, yet the walls continue standing, exactly where ancient builders raised them nearly 2,000 years ago. They remain one of the finest surviving monuments to a civilization that once flourished along the great rivers of Central Asia. The fortress of Toprak Kala reminds us that some of history's greatest capitals rose far beyond the boundaries of the better-known ancient empires. Hidden within the deserts of Uzbekistan, its towering walls, royal palaces, and magnificent works of art preserve the remarkable story of the kingdom of Khwarezm, a civilization whose achievements remained buried beneath the sands until archaeology brought them back into the light. The citadel of Gabala, known in antiquity as Kabala, was once the capital of Caucasian Albania, an ancient kingdom that flourished between the 4th century BC and the 8th century AD. Despite sharing its name, this Albania was entirely separate from the modern Balkan nation. Situated between the Roman, Persian, and later Byzantine worlds, the kingdom occupied a strategic position at the crossroads of Europe and Asia. Its capital became both a political center and an important hub of international trade. The location of Gabala offered remarkable natural advantages. The nearby mountains supplied fresh water and timber. Fertile valleys supported agriculture. Ancient trade routes crossed the region, connecting the Caspian Sea with the Black Sea, the Iranian Plateau, and the great Eurasian steppes. Merchants, diplomats, and armies all passed through the city. Its prosperity depended upon geography as much as political power. At the heart of the settlement stood the citadel. Massive defensive walls enclosed the royal district. Thick fortifications protected administrative buildings, military barracks, storage facilities, and the residences of the ruling elite. Outside the citadel, the city expanded into busy neighborhoods filled with workshops, markets, and family homes. Together, they formed one of the largest urban centers in the ancient Caucasus. Modern excavations have revealed an exceptionally well-planned city. Stone foundations outline major public buildings. Wide streets connected different districts. Drainage channels carried water safely through the settlement. Large storage pits preserved grain harvested from surrounding farmland. Every discovery suggests that Gabala was carefully organized long before many medieval cities appeared elsewhere in the region. Archaeologists have uncovered thousands of remarkable artifacts. Fine pottery, glass vessels, bronze jewelry, iron weapons, coins, stone tools, decorative beads, and beautifully crafted ceramics have all emerged from the excavation. Many imported objects originated hundreds or even thousands of kilometers away. They demonstrate that Gabala maintained commercial ties with Persia, Rome, Central Asia, and the wider Silk Road network. The city was never isolated. One of the site's greatest archaeological strengths is its continuous occupation. Unlike cities abandoned after only a few centuries, Gabala remained inhabited through numerous historical periods. Successive rulers repaired its walls, expanded its neighborhoods, and adapted older buildings for new purposes. Each generation left another layer beneath the ground. For archaeologists, excavating Gabala is like reading the pages of a history book written in earth and stone. The city also became an important center of religion before the spread of Christianity. Local beliefs shaped the spiritual life of the kingdom. Later, Christian communities established churches within the growing capital. By the early medieval period, Gabala had become one of the region's leading religious centers. Its history reflects the cultural transformation of the Caucasus across many centuries. The citadel faced repeated challenges throughout its long history: foreign invasions, Political rivalries, natural disasters, and changing trade routes gradually weakened the city. By the 8th century, Arab expansion into the Caucasus reshaped the political landscape. The royal capital slowly lost its importance. Power shifted elsewhere. Its walls fell silent. The earth gradually reclaimed the once busy streets. Today, archaeologists continue uncovering new sections of the ancient capital. Geophysical surveys reveal buried buildings beneath unexcavated fields. Drone mapping reconstructs the original layout of the city. Laboratory analysis studies ancient seeds, animal bones, and imported artifacts to better understand daily life. Even after decades of research, large portions of Gabala remain hidden beneath the soil. Its greatest discoveries may still lie undisturbed. Standing among the ruins today, the Caucasus Mountains rise quietly in the distance. Birdsong replaces the voices that once filled the marketplaces. The royal palace has disappeared. The city gates no longer welcome caravans, yet beneath every step, ancient walls continue preserving the memory of a kingdom that once stood at the meeting point of great civilizations. The earth still protects its forgotten capital. The citadel of Gabala reminds us that history is often hidden beneath landscapes that appear completely ordinary. Buried beneath the fields of Azerbaijan, its ancient walls, royal buildings, and forgotten streets continue revealing the remarkable story of Caucasian Albania, a kingdom that connected east and west long before the Silk Road reached its greatest heights. The ancient city of Titus. Titus lies just north of the ancient city of Sirte, modern-day Constantine. Long before Roman rule reached North Africa, the surrounding region was home to the Numidians, a powerful Berber kingdom that controlled much of present-day Algeria. Its strategic position overlooking the valleys made it an ideal location for settlement. Whoever occupied these hills could observe the surrounding countryside for many kilometers. The landscape itself became the city's first line of defense. When Rome expanded across North Africa, Titus gradually developed into a prosperous provincial town. Rather than replacing the older settlement completely, Roman builders expanded it. New streets, public buildings, temples, and houses were carefully fitted onto the steep mountainside. Instead of forcing the land to change, the city adapted to the natural contours of the hill. Its unusual layout remains one of its most distinctive features. Walking through Titus was unlike walking through most Roman cities. Wide, perfectly straight streets were impossible instead. Narrow stone pathways climbed from one terrace to another. Long staircases connected different neighborhoods. Homes were built at different heights along the hillside. Every building had to adapt to the mountain beneath it. The result was a city that seemed to grow naturally from the rock itself. Excavations have uncovered an impressive collection of public monuments. A Roman temple overlooked the lower town. Bathhouses provided places for both hygiene and social life. Large cisterns collected precious rainwater. Public squares served as centers of trade and civic activity. Despite its mountainous setting, Titus possessed many of the features found in much larger Roman settlements. It was both practical and remarkably sophisticated. One of the city's greatest engineering achievements was its water management system. Reliable rivers did not flow through the settlement. Instead, builders carefully collected rainwater from rooftops and streets. Stone channels directed the water into underground cisterns carved beneath the city. These enormous reservoirs stored enough water to support the population during long dry seasons. Without this remarkable system, permanent settlement on the mountain would have been nearly impossible. Archaeologists have uncovered thousands of artifacts throughout the site. Fine pottery, glass vessels, bronze jewelry, iron tools, coins, oil lamps, grinding stones, and beautifully carved inscriptions have all emerged from beneath the earth. Together, these discoveries reveal the daily lives of merchants, craftsmen, soldiers, and farming families who once called Titus home. The city was far more than a military outpost. It was a thriving community. The site also preserves evidence of the region's unique cultural identity. Roman influence shaped its architecture, administration, and public buildings. Yet many local Berber traditions continued alongside imperial customs. Religious practices, artistic styles, and everyday life reflected both worlds. Rather than replacing one culture with another, Titus became a place where civilizations blended together over generations. As the Roman Empire weakened, life within the city gradually changed. Trade declined. Political authority shifted. Many public buildings fell into disrepair. Some neighborhoods were abandoned while others continued to be occupied. Eventually, the once busy mountain settlement fell silent. Its stone houses slowly collapsed. The surrounding landscape reclaimed the streets where generations had once lived. Today, archaeologists continue uncovering new sections of Titus, hidden beneath centuries of rubble. Careful excavations reveal additional homes, workshops, temples, and defensive structures. Digital mapping allows researchers to reconstruct the city's complex terraced layout. Each excavation season provides a clearer picture of one of North Africa's most unusual Roman settlements. Even now, large parts of the ancient city remain buried beneath the hillside. Standing among the ruins today, the mountains remain as timeless as ever. The valleys stretch into the distance. The stone stairways still climb toward the summit. No merchants fill the marketplace. No temple ceremonies echo through the streets. Yet the city continues overlooking the landscape exactly as it has for nearly 2,000 years. Its walls still preserve the memory of a community that transformed a rugged mountainside into a remarkable place to live. The ancient city of Titus reminds us that great civilizations did not always build upon wide plains or fertile riverbanks. Sometimes, they chose the most challenging landscapes imaginable, hidden among Algeria's rugged mountains. Its temples, stone streets, and terraced homes continue preserving the story of a city where Roman ambition and Berber tradition became part of the same enduring history. The Palace of Old Nisa, on the windswept plains of southern Turkmenistan, where the foothills of the Kopet-Dag Mountains rise above the desert, massive mud-brick walls surround the ruins of an ancient royal city. Towering fortifications still dominate the landscape. Broken columns emerge from the earth. Collapsed halls lie beneath centuries of sand and dust. To passing travelers, the ruins appear quiet and forgotten. Yet more than 2,000 years ago, this was one of the most important royal residences in Central Asia, a palace where kings celebrated victories. Treasuries overflowed with priceless treasures, and an empire began its rise. This is Old Nisa, the first royal capital of the Parthian Empire. A place where archaeology continues to uncover the foundations of one of antiquity's greatest forgotten kingdoms. Old Nisa lies near modern Ashgabat, at the crossroads between the Iranian plateau and the great deserts of Central Asia. Its location offered both security and opportunity. The nearby mountains provided natural protection. Ancient caravan routes passed close to its walls. Fertile land supported agriculture despite the surrounding arid landscape. For the rulers of the early Parthian kingdom, there could hardly have been a better place to establish a royal capital. The city rose to prominence during the 3rd century BC, when the Parni tribes established what would become the Parthian Empire. Within only a few generations, their kingdom expanded across enormous territories, stretching from Mesopotamia to Central Asia. Old Nisa became far more than a fortress. It evolved into the ceremonial heart of a growing empire. Kings were honored here. Royal ceremonies took place within its walls. The palace symbolized the authority of an emerging superpower. At the center of the citadel stood an extraordinary royal palace, built from enormous mud-brick walls. Its halls surrounded large open courtyards. Reception rooms welcomed ambassadors from distant lands. Private chambers housed members of the royal family. Storerooms protected valuable treasures collected throughout the empire. Every building reflected careful planning and impressive architectural ambition. The palace was designed to inspire loyalty and display royal power. Excavations have revealed one of the most remarkable collections of artifacts ever discovered in Central Asia. Beautiful ivory rhytons, ceremonial drinking vessels carved with scenes from Greek mythology were uncovered inside sealed storerooms. Many were decorated with extraordinary precision. Others combined Hellenistic artistic traditions with local Parthian craftsmanship. These masterpieces demonstrate that the Parthians were deeply connected to the wider ancient world. Their culture blended influences from east and west. Archaeologists also uncovered hundreds of clay tablets, stone sculptures, coins, jewelry, weapons, glassware, fine ceramics, and decorative architectural fragments. Together, these discoveries reveal a sophisticated royal court whose wealth rivaled that of many contemporary kingdoms. The palace was not merely a residence. It functioned as an administrative center, a ceremonial complex, and a secure treasury. One of the palace's most fascinating features is its series of monumental halls. Some rooms measured more than 20 meters across. Massive columns once supported high wooden roofs. Walls were decorated with painted plaster. Large ceremonial spaces hosted royal audiences and important state occasions, although the roofs collapsed centuries ago. Their foundations still reveal the remarkable scale of Parthian architecture. The city itself was heavily fortified. Enormous defensive walls surrounded the royal complex. Square towers guarded every side of the citadel. Controlled gateways limited access to the interior. Unlike later capitals that expanded into vast cities, Old Nisa functioned primarily as a secure royal enclosure. Its purpose was to protect the dynasty at the heart of the growing empire. As the Parthian Empire expanded westward, new political centers gradually emerged. The royal court spent increasing amounts of time in larger cities closer to the empire's western frontiers. Old Nisa slowly lost its role as the principal capital, yet it remained an important ceremonial and religious center for generations. Its sacred significance endured long after political power had shifted elsewhere. Modern archaeological research continues uncovering remarkable details hidden beneath the ancient ruins. Laser scanning records fragile architecture. Ground surveys identify buried structures beyond the visible walls. Laboratory analysis studies pigments, ivory carvings, and ancient building techniques. Each excavation season reveals another piece of a civilization that once challenged both Rome and its eastern rivals. Much of the palace complex still remains unexplored. Standing within the ruins today, the desert wind moves quietly through the ancient walls. The royal halls stand open to the sky. The kings have long since vanished. The ceremonies have ended. Yet the palace continues overlooking the plains, just as it did more than 2,000 years ago. Its weathered walls still preserve the memory of the empire that first rose within these fortifications, before becoming one of the ancient world's greatest powers. The Palace of Old Nisa reminds us that every great empire begins somewhere, hidden beneath the deserts of Turkmenistan. Its royal halls, treasuries, and monumental walls preserve the remarkable story of the Parthian kingdom, at the very moment it began transforming into one of history's most powerful civilizations. Today, its ancient palace continues revealing the forgotten origins of an empire that once stood between Rome and the East. The hidden oasis of Al Ain. For thousands of years, oases have served as the lifelines of the desert. Without them, long-distance trade across Arabia would have been nearly impossible. Caravans carrying incense, spices, textiles, copper, and precious goods depended upon these rare sources of water. Every successful journey was planned around the location of an oasis. The desert rewarded those who knew where life could still be found. Al Ain developed around natural underground springs emerging from the base of nearby mountains. These precious water sources allowed people to settle here long before many neighboring regions became populated. Families planted date palms, fields of wheat and barley appeared, fruit orchards flourished. Over time, a permanent community grew where only desert had once existed. One of the oasis's greatest achievements was its remarkable irrigation system. Ancient engineers created an intricate network of underground channels known as falaj. These gently sloping tunnels carried fresh groundwater over long distances without the need for pumps. Stone-lined canals distributed water equally among farms and gardens. Every drop was carefully measured. Every family received its allotted share. The system reflected both engineering skill and careful social organization. Archaeological excavations have revealed that the oasis has been occupied for more than 4,000 years. Stone houses, mud brick buildings, storage rooms, pottery workshops, and ancient wells have all emerged beneath the surrounding landscape. These discoveries show that the oasis supported thriving communities long before the rise of many famous civilizations in the region. The desert was never truly empty. The date palm became the foundation of everyday life. Its fruit provided food, its leaves supplied roofing materials, its fibers were woven into baskets and ropes, its trunks supported homes and irrigation structures. Around the palms, farmers cultivated vegetables, grains, and fruit trees beneath the protective shade. The oasis became a carefully balanced agricultural ecosystem. Archaeologists have uncovered pottery, grinding stones, copper tools, jewelry, animal bones, and countless everyday objects throughout the settlement, rather than preserving royal monuments. These discoveries tell the story of ordinary families who survived through cooperation, innovation, and a deep understanding of the desert environment. Their greatest achievement was not conquest, but sustainability. The oasis also became an important meeting place between civilizations. Caravans traveling across Arabia paused here to rest. Merchants exchanged goods. News spread between distant kingdoms. Ideas traveled alongside trade. Over centuries, different cultures passed through the oasis, leaving behind small traces that archaeology continues to uncover today. Modern archaeological research continues expanding our understanding of the ancient settlement. Ground surveys reveal buried structures beneath cultivated fields. Excavations uncover early irrigation channels hidden below later construction. Environmental studies analyze ancient pollen and seeds, reconstructing how people adapted to changing climates across thousands of years. Even now, large sections of the earliest oasis remain buried beneath the modern landscape. standing beneath the shade of the palms today. The contrast is remarkable. Beyond the trees, the desert stretches toward the horizon. Within the oasis, water continues flowing through ancient channels. The gardens remain green. The same life-giving springs that sustained early settlers still nourish the land. Few places demonstrate humanity's ability to adapt to nature more clearly than this. The hidden oasis of Al Ain reminds us that the greatest achievements of ancient civilizations were not always towering pyramids or mighty fortresses. Sometimes, they were places where people learned to master the desert itself, hidden among Arabia's endless sands, its ancient waterways, palm groves, and forgotten settlements continue preserving the remarkable story of survival, ingenuity, and life where almost none should have existed. The Palace of Gonor Deep. Gonor Deep lies within the Merkab River Delta, an ancient oasis that flourished during the Bronze Age. Around 4,000 years ago, the region supported fertile farmlands surrounded by desert. Irrigation canals carried river water across the plain. Fields produced grain. Livestock grazed nearby. Settlements spread throughout the oasis. Together, they formed what archaeologists now call the Bactria Margiana archaeological complex, one of the ancient world's most sophisticated yet least familiar civilizations. At the center of Gonor Deep stood an enormous fortified palace, built from millions of mud bricks. Its thick walls enclosed royal residences, administrative buildings, storerooms, and ceremonial spaces. Square towers strengthened the outer defenses. Narrow gateways controlled access to the interior. Everything about the complex reflected careful planning. This was not simply a residence. It was the political and ceremonial heart of an entire kingdom. Excavations have revealed an extraordinary network of courtyards and halls. Large reception rooms welcomed visitors. Private chambers housed the ruling elite. Storage facilities protected valuable supplies. Workshops produced luxury goods for the palace. Every section served a specific purpose. The carefully organized layout suggests a highly developed administration long before many better-known civilizations reached their height. One of Gonor Deep's greatest mysteries lies within its religious architecture. Archaeologists uncovered temples, fire altars, and ceremonial platforms scattered throughout the royal complex. Some researchers believe these structures preserve early forms of rituals that later influenced Zoroastrian traditions. Sacred fires may have burned continuously within certain chambers. Religious ceremonies were closely connected to royal authority. The palace served both political and spiritual power. Thousands of remarkable artifacts have emerged from the excavation. Gold jewelry, silver vessels, bronze weapons, stone seals, painted pottery, ivory objects, and beautifully carved sculptures have all been recovered from the ruins. Many display artistic styles influenced by distant civilizations. These discoveries reveal that Gonor Deep maintained extensive trade connections reaching across Central Asia, Mesopotamia, the Iranian Plateau, and even the Indus Valley. Its people were never isolated. The palace also demonstrates impressive engineering. Wide streets separated major buildings. Drainage systems controlled seasonal water. Massive walls protected the royal enclosure. Carefully planned reservoirs stored precious water brought through irrigation canals. In the middle of the desert, the builders created a thriving urban center supported by remarkable hydraulic technology. Water made civilization possible. Beyond the palace, archaeologists uncovered extensive residential districts, craft workshops, markets, temples, and one of the largest Bronze Age cemeteries ever discovered in Central Asia. The city supported thousands of people, farmers, metalworkers, merchants, priests, and administrators all lived within the growing oasis. Gonor Deep was not merely a fortress, it was the center of an advanced civilization. Despite its prosperity, the city was eventually abandoned. Changing river channels gradually reduced the flow of water into the oasis. Agricultural land became increasingly difficult to sustain. As the environment changed, the population slowly dispersed. The palace fell silent, the canals dried. The desert gradually buried the city beneath layers of sand. For nearly 4,000 years, its existence was forgotten. Modern archaeology has transformed our understanding of Gonor Deep. Satellite imagery reveals ancient irrigation systems stretching across the surrounding desert. Laser mapping reconstructs the palace's original layout. Laboratory analysis studies ancient crops, animal remains, and construction techniques. Each excavation season uncovers new buildings hidden beneath the sands. Even today, large portions of the ancient capital remain unexplored. Standing within the palace ruins today, the desert wind moves quietly across the ancient walls. The great halls stand open beneath the sky. The royal ceremonies have ended. The rulers are gone. Yet the palace still dominates the oasis exactly as it did 4,000 years ago. Its weathered walls preserve the remarkable story of a civilization that flourished in one of the world's harshest landscapes, long before history remembered its name. The Palace of Gonardapi reminds us that some of the greatest civilizations are not lost because they failed, but because time allowed the desert to hide them, buried beneath the sands of Turkmenistan. Its royal halls, sacred temples, and forgotten streets continue revealing the story of an advanced Bronze Age kingdom that remained invisible for thousands of years, until archaeology brought it back into the light. The Karabel rock relief. High in the rugged mountains of western Turkey, where a narrow mountain pass cuts through steep limestone ridges, an ancient king has watched over the road for more than 3,000 years. His figure is carved directly into the living rock. One hand holds a spear, a bow rests across his shoulder. His face still looks toward the valley below, as generations of travelers pass without ever knowing who he truly was. For centuries, people believed this mysterious carving belonged to the legendary Egyptian pharaoh Ramesses II. Others imagined it marked the passage of forgotten armies. The truth proved even more remarkable. This is the Karabel rock relief, one of the few surviving monuments of the lost Hittite world. A silent inscription carved into stone at the crossroads of ancient civilizations. The Karabel rock relief stands within the Karabel Pass, a natural route linking the Aegean coast with the interior of Anatolia, for thousands of years. This mountain corridor served as one of western Anatolia's most important roads. Merchants crossed the pass with caravans. Messengers carried royal orders between distant kingdoms. Soldiers marched through the valley during times of war. Whoever controlled this route controlled access between the coast and the great civilizations beyond the mountains. Its strategic importance made it the perfect place for a royal monument. The relief was carved during the Late Bronze Age, around the 13th century BC. At that time, the Hittite Empire dominated much of Anatolia. Its kings ruled an enormous territory stretching from central Turkey into northern Syria, although the empire rivaled Egypt, Babylon, and Assyria. Much of its history disappeared after its collapse. For centuries, the Hittites became almost forgotten, known only through scattered references preserved by neighboring civilizations. Karabel survived as one of the few monuments still standing in its original location. The figure carved into the cliff represents a local ruler named Tarkaznawa, king of the land of Mira. His identity remained unknown for generations. Only after scholars succeeded in deciphering the ancient Anatolian hieroglyphic inscriptions surrounding the figure did his name finally emerge from history. The relief was no longer anonymous. It became the portrait of a real king, one who governed western Anatolia under the influence of the Hittite Empire more than 3,000 years ago. The king is shown standing proudly in traditional Hittite royal dress. He wears a tall pointed headdress, curved shoes with upturned toes, a short tunic decorated with fine detail. His right hand carries a spear. Across his shoulder rests a bow, a symbol of both military strength and royal authority, although centuries of weather have softened many details. The confidence of the figure remains unmistakable. Even now, he appears ready to defend the mountain pass. Perhaps the most remarkable feature of the monument is not the carving itself, but the inscription beside it. Written in Luwian hieroglyphs, the text identifies the ruler and proclaims his authority over the surrounding lands. For centuries, nobody could read these mysterious symbols. They remained silent until modern archaeology and linguistic research gradually unlocked their meaning. With that breakthrough, the monument finally spoke again after more than 3,000 years. The Karabel relief also transformed historians' understanding of Western Anatolia. Ancient Hittite records frequently mentioned kingdoms such as Mira, Seha, and Arzawa. For a long time, their exact locations remained uncertain. The inscriptions at Karabel provided crucial evidence linking written records with real places on the landscape. One monument helped solve historical questions that had puzzled scholars for generations. Excavations and surveys around the Karabel Pass have uncovered traces of ancient roads, defensive positions, and settlement activity connected with the wider Hittite frontier. Rather than standing alone, the relief formed part of a carefully controlled transportation network linking royal centers across Anatolia. Travelers passing beneath the monument would have immediately recognized the authority of the king, whose image overlooked the valley. It served both as political propaganda and as a permanent declaration of territorial control. The monument's survival is remarkable in itself, unlike temples protected beneath sand or cities buried beneath the earth. The Carabel relief has remained exposed to the elements for over 3 millennia. Rain, earthquakes, and changing climates have all left their mark. Parts of the carving have weathered away. Some details have become difficult to distinguish, yet the figure still stands proudly upon the cliff, continuing to overlook the same mountain pass chosen by its creators thousands of years ago. Modern archaeology has given the relief new importance. Three-dimensional laser scanning now records every surviving detail. Digital photography captures inscriptions almost invisible to the naked eye. Conservation specialists carefully monitor erosion, protecting the monument from further damage. Researchers continue comparing its artistic style with other Hittite monuments across Turkey and northern Syria. Even today, the Carabel relief continues contributing new evidence about one of the ancient world's least understood empires. Standing before the monument today, the mountains remain quiet. Cars now travel the roads once crossed by Bronze Age caravans. The armies have vanished. The kingdoms have disappeared. The language carved beside the king was forgotten for thousands of years, then rediscovered by modern scholars. Yet the ruler still stands upon the cliff, watching silently over the valley, a messenger from an empire that almost vanished completely from human memory. The Carabel rock relief reminds us that history is sometimes preserved in the most unexpected places, not inside museums or beneath buried cities, but carved directly into the face of a mountain. Hidden along an ancient road in western Turkey, its weathered king, forgotten inscription, and enduring presence continue revealing the remarkable story of the Hittite world. A civilization whose greatest monuments still wait quietly among the mountains for those willing to look closely.